All right, how's it going today, guys? Happy Monday. Brand new week of trading. It's part of our weekly video series, guys. We like to do a live stream to kind of go over what we're looking at on BTC, Ethereum, some altcoins. But first things first, guys, shout out to the stream sponsors of CoinCatch and Breakout Prop. They are really some of the two best platforms within the industry. I love CoinCatch, no KYC, no VPN. You know, they offer great pairings, great team, great CEO. They're doing a lot of good things. So really appreciate them. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Also, Breakout Prop. Guys, when I first started trading over in TradeFi, traditional markets, I used a prop firm. It is very key to kind of get some education behind you. And I think Breakout Prop does a great job of kind of letting you, kind of work with some money that may not be yours. They have great payouts. They have great pairings over there on Breakout Prop. And I think they are definitely probably the best prop firm in the crypto industry. So shout out to both of them. We're going to just go into NPOC levels, guys, for BTC. Not much has changed. We did have another print over the weekend kind of down here. Haven't really labeled it yet, but it's around that 103.618. I still do think that these levels get hit, right? I'm still looking for that 102.937 NPOC level to hit. And I think we do have that as like our next long entry, right? So that is where we're looking at for longing. We did have obviously the long at 99184 as well. Do I think we drop that low? I'm not sure, but if we do, I'll be prepared for it, right? That's kind of my mindset. I haven't longed BTC in a long time, at least with leverage. I just think, for me, guys, I've talked about this many times, but we were longing that 80K, high 70K area, taking profits into this move higher. So for me, there's just no real reason for me to chase at these all-time highs. I understand why, the excitement is there. I don't really have an edge with breakout trading. I think, if you want an all-time high break to the upside, for sure it's possible, but just look at the rejection here. A lot of perpetuals started longing in this area based off some of those charts that I send you. And, lo and behold, it did just get a rejection. We barely broke all-time highs. And then now we are trading still above 100K. So not a crazy rejection, but, I know we talked about this last time to where, this is previous all-time highs. And that's where you want to see some good price action kind of happening. And that's ideally what is happening right now, right? So we are kind of just getting back into that area that was resistance first. We had the leg higher, a lot of perps started jumping in, then we see a little bit of a rejection. And then right here, we kind of have a lot of open space, right? To where if we don't hold that 102.97, it's probably possible we can kind of drop to like 97, 98K. So again, we do have some NPOC levels in confluence, 99 all the way down to 94. Really hoping that we don't drop that low to 94K, but it would be a pretty substantial gift for the people that are sidelined, right? Because you could get some decent entries within that. But really everything kind of stays the same. I think we've talked about this range as well, to where we had this NPOC print up here at 107. We ran up, we grabbed that, and then a potential retest down to about that 100K area makes sense. We lose 100K, what's going to happen? Well, everybody's going to kind of go a little crazy. Oh, Bitcoin lost 100K. The bear market's here. We're going to drop to 50K. I've seen an insane amount of lower targets on BTC. Like I said, 80K, 50K, 60K. Basically, a lot of people are using last cycle's fractal as, something to base their trade off of, which was kind of like right here, right? Where it's like, oh, we broke all-time highs, rejected, and then barely broke all-time highs again. And then we had that long downtrend for a couple of years that really was brutal for a lot of people that were, kind of longing in that top area. But, for me, I'm still on the boat of higher regardless of what fractal happened last cycle. I'm not a big fractal trader, guys. I think that fractals are great to kind of look at to get somewhat of an anchor chart off of. But for me, every cycle top has been different. From 17 to 21, 22 to now. So I don't really expect it to be exactly the same as it was. But, at the end of the day, we are just at all-time high territories. I don't know how the break of all-time highs is going to continue to transpire. We did get it. Now, do we get it again? I think so. And again, this price action that we're seeing at previous highs is decent price action for us to kind of hold and potentially leg higher, which is really my thesis kind of going forward. But I don't think we have any short plan yet. We did have a short at that 107.877. That was initially where I was kind of thinking of, hey, if you are trying to hedge for some spot, if you are trying to hedge short, just to kind of offset some of those holdings, that would be the area to do it. And then, today's the same thing, guys. I'm not really interested in shorting here. If you do want to short, you are short biased, you do think lower. Again, you wait for something like this to kind of short into. You want to be getting entries that are, discounts, right? And if you're shorting, your discount is going to be higher. than lower, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for next on BTC as a short entry. Now let's just dive over into Ethereum, guys. Our Ethereum setup is still holding, right? I mean, it's good, right? We haven't got that retest of 2404 NPOC print, but at the end of the day, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it's not gonna happen, right? Basically what could happen is, we still maybe run up, close this NPOC first, then we get that rejection, and then it can move something like this. So again, a ranging market that is good for that next leg higher, right? And it may deviate down below this area here, and it may run a lot of stops, because I guarantee there's a lot of people that are going to get in leverage trades on Ethereum based off this wick right here. And so again, this is why I don't like stop loss levels, guys. They get ran. And this would be an example of one of them getting ran below 2336, right? So again, my area of interest is dollar cost average at 2404 all the way down to, potentially this low wick. Now, where's the invalidation, right? That's a big question that I get a lot of the times. And I say this as like my invalidation is losing the account, because I think most of the time this sort of stuff will happen and people kind of get freaked out and they start thinking lower, like below 2K again, when the reality is things get bought up quick. The next short entry, I don't think we have it. It was higher at that 3K area, but now that we do have prints, again, kind of just sticking with this range here, we run up, we grab this 2724, that would be in confluence with the upper limit of this range on ETH, and so that would be like our next short entry. I did want to talk about Bitcoin top indicator. Still no real signs for me that it's like, hey, this is the top for Bitcoin, like screaming that. You can just kind of see, things that I really like here are MVRV score, CVDD, and NUPL. Those are the ones that I have used the most, that I've looked at the most. So again, this is an indicator that's free over on TradingView. It's called BTI, Bitcoin Top Indicator, and it's created by DeProof. This is a great indicator to use for anchor charting, right? You may not be wanting to day trade this. You may not be wanting to be focused on this when you're looking for a scalp trade or you're kind of jumping into a swing trade, but it is a very good high-term time frame anchor. And I'll tell you guys, when things start to hit certain levels here, when you start to see certain flashes, we will be talking like, hey, maybe start taking some off, potential top, yada yada. But this is also not set in stone. Like, price can be driven so much higher than what this is just showing, right? Because even if we leg higher up to like 160, right, we may not be getting red flashes. We may be just starting getting that bright yellow, which again would be an indication to like, hey, maybe take some off the table or whatever your situation is, BTC dominance is what I want to bring up next. We started to tap into that zone to where I think we're kind of can be topping. But again, we did have that extension of 65%-ish, and I think it could potentially drive all the way up to 70% given if Ethereum can't rally, if altcoins can't rally, and BTC continues to show that strength. So if we reject here, it wouldn't surprise me, but if we go higher, it wouldn't surprise me either. I still think people are underexposed to Bitcoin. People still have a lot of allocation to altcoins, meme coins, all this other stuff to try and kind of catch up to this, and it's still just not happening. So I think more damage to the traders right now in the market would be BTC to leg higher, take away momentum from all that sort of stuff before we kind of get a rejection. PEPE, very, very similar situation to where we had that move to the downside, about a 32% move to the downside. But again, if it does go lower, I'll be happy because I get more ads, but it is a pretty good retest as of right now. And then the next area of interest, if we do continue to drop, would be like somewhere in here, right? So maybe we do dog leg a little bit lower before these start to catch, maybe something like this. And so again, kind of validating that boring, long, non-exciting summer that we might potentially see. We wanted a retest of between, what did I say? It was like that 168, 155 area. And so we're here, again, buying a discount. If we just look at a low-term time frame, current range on Sol, parallel, we have our upper limit, we can tell, right? Because 2 rejections off of it, and then we can come down here and we can create our like lower limit around this area too. So again, Sol is getting in that discounted buy area. So if you can get an average on Sol between now and 140, I think that it will bode well, because this is a key area of support that if we retest, a lot of people will probably get bearish at. We look to be building a position within that area, and then we get to ride it up to probably, above 200. I think Sol's here to stay. Sol is a great play that a lot of people should be focusing on. I consider it one of the majors. BTC, ETH, Sol, those are the 3. So I don't really like TA total and that kind of stuff too much. Damn, total actually does not look that good looking at it. I saw someone throw this on a log chart and it looked way better as far as at least like chart analysis goes. And I think obviously this looks way better because we've kind of breached that highs. Now we're kind of holding. I just don't really know how to TA total that much. It's not like that important to me. I think that, obviously it's key to look at as far as, just metrics overall. but it's hard to throw like a current range on like total or like ETH BTC, right? They're kind of just something that you watch, at least for me. I don't really take trades based on them. But, if it's something that works for you, then do what works for you. But, I would say clear range, deviation outside. Hopefully this continues higher, maybe a deviation with acceptance back in, and then, we can kind of build that base before we run up. Just kind of hard for me to TA and base trades off of. It's like a high term time frame thing to kind of be looking at. So for me, as far as trading goes, it's just hard to find entries based on it. We have our upper limit as far as rejection goes, and then you could probably argue that this is probably a good lower limit to be establishing because it was once resistance, extension higher, then support, and then it is another area of support. So FartCoin, again, buying within that discounted price area between 120 and 90 cents. You're not paying a premium up here at 160, 170. This is the discount. These are, the areas I'll be looking to buying, across the board. I think, for me, I am going to focus on less trades, right? Like 4, maybe 5 trades max, depending on what happens with Bitcoin. FartCoin, I think, is in a good area to be averaging into, right? You may not be catching the bottom here at 109, but you could take a starter and then have dry powder to look to be averaging below towards this 90 cent area on FartCoin. Yeah, CRV is a good buy. This is exactly the chart that we looked at last time, right? We had a little bit of a rejection up here based off of just our squiggles that we drew. This was an area of retest that I think is a good area. If you can get an average between 66 and 60, I think that will bode well on CRV. So not a bad area to kind of be bidding. And again, this is just a chart that we just brought up based off previous streams. We're now at an area of buying. Again, price action from previously that we had some chop in April, then that turned into a support level that we are currently at, right? The worst thing that would happen would be like a deviation down, rejection, and something like this, right? Lose that support level and then turn it into a resistance again, and we see lows, which I don't know, guys. Obviously, I don't want this to happen, and a lot is going to depend on BTC, right? If BTC gets that drop all the way down to, I think someone was calling it like 91, 94K, then yes, I totally think that CRV can drop back down to 44 cents. So a lot is depending on the majors. If Ethereum holds, if BTC holds, I think that we're at good discounted prices across the board for altcoins. Shout out to the stream sponsors, CoinCatch and Breakout Prop. We're going to be doing the Breakout Prop giveaway here in a couple of days. If you guys have any questions, please don't be afraid to hesitate and reach out. And I really appreciate all you guys joining, chatting it up, asking me stuff. I'll see you guys over in the Telegram, and we'll see you on Wednesday.